I'm Richard. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta. I manage the technology partners over at Katana, and I will let Ben introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. My name is Ben Schaefer, and I am with the ConverSight team. I've been with the ConverSight team for about 5 years now, working mostly with our SMB clients as well as working with awesome partners like Katana. So guess kind of two phases of my role here at ConverSight. One, working directly with clients and finding creative solutions to help tackle some of the challenges that they face their organizations. Then also working with great partners like Katana, so we can bring this platform out to their customers, help them kind of tackle some of the challenges that they're having in their orgs. So thanks for having me today, Richard.
Amazing. I'm stoked that you're here. Okay, so today we're going to talk about why you would want to use Katana plus ConverSight together, sort of a bit about each platform. You might already be using one of us, or you might be aware of us. You might be using none of us, and it's your first time. So, hello. And you're curious about how to leverage forecasting for more accurate inventory. Ben is then going to walk you through the ConverSight platform and show you how that would intersect with Katana and managing your inventory. We'll talk a little about our sort of new partnership, and we've got a special offer, and we will have a full Q&A session at the end. So once again, put your questions into the Q&A box, and we will either get to them during the presentation or at the end during the Q&A session. Okay. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Katana if you need some background, but we are a inventory and manufacturing platform for small and medium-sized businesses. We help people centralize their inventory and manufacturing capabilities. We help your team stay connected so no one's using inaccurate spreadsheets or guessing about what's in stock or how to manufacture something. We integrate with a ton of great solutions like ConverSight, but also QuickBooks, Xero, Shopify, BigCommerce, a lot of the tools that you need for running your effective e-commerce business. We either connect into them already or we can get that set up. We've got over 1,500 businesses that use us currently. We are across the world. We've got 75 plus industries. Most of our really big ones are food and beverage, clothing and apparel, machinery and metal, car parts, like wellness products. So that might be you. And we've also got some fabulous awards at the bottom of this slide. But essentially, we just try to make inventory and manufacturing accessible, and accurate and approachable so people can run an efficient business. Now, Ben's going to tell you about ConverSight.
Yeah, and ConverSight is, we consider ourselves a unified decision intelligence platform. So, what this means is we can bring in all of those data sources. Typically, we're starting with a platform like Katana, but really, we don't want all of that data siloed out between different platforms. So, if you do have a finance system, think like QBO, we want to make sure that that's all in the same place. We can bring all of that data into a single platform. And really, where we start to see some of our biggest solutions are around our AI forecasting, inventory optimization, really to try and help drive, improvements in our inventory cost. And it allows us that quick, real time experience for clients to make those quick and informed decisions within the crazy supply chain space that it is today. Right now, we're over 1,500 supply chain customers. Most of those customers are going to be in the manufacturing, distribution, retail space. Richard, I'm definitely going to tote. We were AI Agent of the Year last year, as well as a Gartner Pool vendor. So excited to work with you guys and show you guys a little bit more of what we're doing here at ConverSight.
Perfect. Well, here we are. We're getting straight into the product. So I will
Yeah.
let Ben take it over.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everyone on the webinar, I always like to ask a few poll questions, to kind of poll the room, see how people are feeling. So we're gonna, as I'm getting out and sharing my screen here today, we've got that first poll question up for you guys, and that question is, what is your biggest struggle around surrounding data? Um, so go ahead, throw your answer in the chat, and let's get this thing started off. All right, we're going to give everyone a few more minutes to answer in that poll. Maybe not a few minutes, maybe more like a few seconds. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Up on the screen right now, you are going to see our ConverSight platform. It is a web-based platform. It does connect. We have a great integration with Katana. And we're going to cover a few different sections of the platform today. We'll touch on our insights, the Explorer, Athena. We'll touch a little bit on the storyboards as well. So to start out, the page that you're seeing here right now is our insights page. We really view this as kind of your top news stories of the day. What are we seeing that's happening within the organization? And a lot of times we're tracking trends across our customers, our products, our margins. This allows an organization to let ConverSight monitor what's happening and really only bring you things to your attention that are going to matter, things that I need to address. If we think about customer trends, if a customer's, buying normally like we're used to, maybe that's not something that we need to draw attention to. But imagine if a customer is starting to buy less from us. This is an example where I would want to make sure that their account manager or our sales team is reaching out and finding out why. This gives us an opportunity to help repair that relationship, maybe address how we're positioned in the market. And these are refreshed every single day. So as we're getting that refresh of Katana data, we're also going to be refreshing those insights so that you're going to have those top things that we maybe need to address within your organization. Now, we typically, when we're working with SMB customers, a lot of the challenges that we typically see are going to be around, how do I get the data out? I want to make a report in the way that I want. And so we have a couple of ways to do that. First stop is going to be the Explorer section. So even for a general business user, we wanted to make this an easy experience for them and make it a little bit easier to build all those reports, especially in our SMB space. They don't necessarily have an analyst that they can have them go out and build the reports for them. They don't have a data scientist. These are typically not things that SMB clients have, but we now have the technology to give that power to a general business user. So as you can see in our Explorer, we break this down in a few subject areas. What that allows us to do is start to guide that business user and how they're going to build a report. So we're actually going to go through just a simple report here. So I'm actually going to choose that sales subject area. And let's say I want to get, for an example, let's do a sales report. We want to see how it's tracking by month. And then we're also going to take a look at, the type of revenue that we're bringing in. So we can either choose here on the left-hand side, as you've seen, I've chose customer name that gets put up into our report building panel. Maybe I want to look at, the revenue that's being brought in. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And then also, I want to make sure I have a date field in there as well. I'm actually going to use the ship date here for today. Now, up here in the right-hand corner, we'll click Run. Now, this is where the system is going out. It knows where this information lies within our data set and is going to, and as you can tell, it's early in the year, so we don't have much data in there yet. So I'm actually going to switch that filter to last year. We're going to go ahead and run that report. Now it's giving us this report in more of a graphical version. I maybe be a little bit more old school, and I'm going to switch that into a pivot. Now, we do have a few months, just had a couple months where we didn't sell anything. Hopefully, that's not you at your organization. But in this demo environment, we do have some limited data here. So any reports that we build in here, we can add to our storyboards, which traditionally you've probably heard them called dashboards. We call them storyboards, as these are really telling the story of the organization that you have today. Now, those can be simply pinned here. We can share within the organization, and we always want to be able to export to Excel or PDF as well. I know a lot of you guys are used to working in Excel. We want to give you that option just so that you guys are digesting and using that information in a way that makes sense for you. A couple other highlights that we have here. If you did want to get into some more like top bottom analysis, top customers versus bottom customers, any sort of trends that you're seeing, as well as that period analysis. We've actually been seeing quite a few of our customers using that period analysis to really break down, how a promotion they ran in July is compared to a section in November. So we can pick very specific dates. Now, the other option that we have as far as how we are getting information out, if we didn't want to come in and click and drag through to create these reports, we can also utilize that AI assistant. We've named that Athena. That's your AI assistant. So similarly to the way that we choose a subject area within the Explore section, we can also choose our subject areas here as well. So similar report, customer revenue, by month, and for last year. You can go ahead and ask those questions here as well. And Athena is going to build that report for us. So if you're somebody that doesn't necessarily want to go through and pick out those different fields, we can ask those in a more natural language way to ensure that we're building that report. Same thing here. We can still explore. We can still pin those to storyboards as well. Just another experience in how we want to get the information out and work through there. Now, before we move on into more of our forecasting portion, I did want to throw another poll question up. Right now, what is the current result of your forecasting exercises? I know many times we see organizations working very full into Excel. It tends to be manual, but wanted to see, are you guys doing pretty good? Are you guys running into stockouts? Maybe some excess inventory? Go ahead and give us your thoughts there. Would love to hear that. Richard,
Um,
anything from your end that I might have missed?
no, but we have two very good questions. First question is, or I guess request is, someone wants to see an inventory analysis if possible.
Okay.
Um, is that coming up quite yet, or do you want to cover that next, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, we can. We'll cover that here in the next section here.
Cool.
A little bit more on the forecasting kind of inventory optimization side.
Cool. Why don't you talk about the poll results, and then I have one other small question before we get into that inventory analysis.
So yeah, let's take a look. So from the poll, it looks like the winner of that poll is actually a combination of both. So both stockouts and excess inventory, with second being experiencing stockouts. So from my experience working with clients, that's super common. I actually did a poll last year, probably about May, and it was overwhelmingly a combination of both. So just know that you're not alone. That's pretty common, and definitely something that we can help address here with ConverSight.
Yeah, having to running into both ends of the spectrum where it is like, having maybe too much of the things that you don't sell as often, and you're constantly stocking out of the things that you sell through really quickly, and wanting to be reasonable about how much money you're tying up in even those high value items that sell through really fast. It can be tough always predicting the right amount. Yeah, that's definitely something that people experience before they come onto Katana. Katana helps them figure that out, but then with integrations like ConverSight, it really clarifies that. So yeah, interesting seeing that result. The other question is, can you cover kinds of businesses that would example from the features that were covered so far? So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
industries and
So
that type of thing.
yeah, I think let's answer that one right now, Richard. I think when we look at organizations like industries across the board, so when we look at the data that we're grabbing, being able to get that granularity is going to be valuable for all organizations. So when we're going in and you're trying to really identify areas of the business to improve, or even just trying to find where maybe a mistake was made, being able to have access to that data to try and figure out where those numbers are potentially off, or areas of improvement, by being able to have all of that data and have access to it quickly and easily, is something that's good for everyone. Um, I listen to a lot of organizations that are going in and they're trying to do an analysis or trying to get some information out of their system, and to put it all into a single report usually ends up being, two, three, four, exports out of that base system. They end up going over to Excel. They're manipulating it. They're kind of doing some Excel work, and then that report's static, right?
Yeah.
So then next week, when we want to do that same analysis again, we're going through that whole process all over. So when we think about the way that we can use ConverSight, we build that report once within ConverSight. Then every time we refresh that data, all that all of those reports are going to be refreshed with the most up-to-date information that we have from Katana. So not only is it going to be a portion of, hey, we're getting all of this information out in an easy way, but then we're automating that process for them, which, especially with SMB teams, you're maybe running a skeleton crew at the organization. So any of those time efficiencies are going to be hugely beneficial.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, so I think it sounds like you're ready to continue on with the walkthrough, but are you able to show the inventory analysis?
Yeah, so would love to get a little bit more information on what you're looking for as far as inventory analysis.
Yeah.
Obviously, breakdown of where that inventory is. I'll also highlight a couple of things in our recommendations that's going to be a little bit kind of geared towards the inventory analysis piece. But I think is since inventory analysis could be a pretty broad spectrum of items, let's make sure that we connect post the webinar, and we can kind of go through exactly what you're looking for. And also, I'll highlight a couple things in here, but definitely want to get some more granularity there as far
Yeah.
as what specifically we want to look at.
Perfect.
Awesome. So we're going to move into kind of that forecasting section, kind of our inventory optimizations section of today's demo. So when we talk about running, any sort of um, production, demand planning, really setting yourself up for the future, we really need to set a good foundation. So here at ConverSite, that forecast, that demand forecast is going to set that foundation for all of the activities that we're going to do moving forward. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is really kind of that summary. So what are we expecting to sell from a volume perspective each and every single month? Now, you're probably asking, how are we getting here? So typically we're going to look at the last 2 years worth of data. We've kind of found that that tends to be the sweet spot for us as far as making sure that we have enough information so that and data points that if we have some seasonal trends that are happening, we're going to start to identify those within the organization. And now, if we did want to get into some of the nuts and bolts behind why we're making that recommendation, we do have our demand forecast app. So, as a planner and operations leader, we can actually get in and start to look at what's going on within all of these products. So when we look at all of our products, if we're I tend to see there's a couple different kind of buckets of customers that kind of get into this. So one is going to be, hey, I really love data. I want to get into the stats and statistics and all of those items. That's typically one bucket. And then on the other side, we typically have team members that go, I just want to see the forecast. And then I'm going to use my internal knowledge of the organization and maybe make a few tweaks. Best part here is that we have that experience for both people. If somebody did want to get into, the nuts and bolts, we can dive into any of those products, kind of look at this. Do they have outliers? Do we want to play with different forecasting algorithms? We have that experience. So when we're doing an analysis for that demand forecast, we actually run off a number of different algorithms. So we run that 2 years worth of data over those. And then the system actually chooses the best forecasting algorithm that fits best with what history that we have and uses that to project forward. Now, once we get into and we've forecasted that data, I think this is really where that person that says, "Hey, I just give me the forecast. I'll make a few adjustments." We give you guys that opportunity. You guys know your business best, and so we give you those options. So we can select that adjust forecast, and what that's going to allow us to do is, if we wanted to go in, let's say I just wanted to make a singular adjustment, I can do that here. If we wanted to, let's go ahead and make a quick adjustment here. Let's say I have a promo coming up. I want to select everything for that month. Maybe we expect 20% growth on that compared to what we normally did because of our forecasting or our promotion activities. We can add that there. Now, the other example is maybe individual line items. So maybe we have a new distributor that we just picked up. We know that they're going to do 25% more than what we're used to. We still have all of those options to make those adjustments. So we give you guys the flexibility to make those changes. And then once we save those, that's all going to be placed back into our product monthly forecast. So again, this really creates that foundation for us for all of our execution moving forward. Now, when we think of what can we do to help optimize inventory, well, what we do here at ConverSight is we actually start to recommend purchase orders and work orders within the organization. Now, things that we need to make sure that we consider first, obviously that forecast, but we also want to make sure as we're making a recommendation that we're looking at what things are already on purchase order. Maybe we want to look at what's already on hand, make sure that we have enough. If you're a manufacturer, we want to look at that bill of materials, because at the end of the day, let's think about if we use a common raw material across a number of our finished goods. If we're not planning to that most granular item, chances are we could potentially miss something. We actually worked with a pump producer in the oil and gas space, and they continually stocked out of a 5 cent washer. What that kind of resulted in is when we run out of that washer, we have a 500 to $1,000 pump just sitting there waiting for a 5 cent washer, and that was because we weren't planning for that washer to be used across 7 different product lines. So, in addition to that, we also want to make sure that we're including our lead time, because when we're making these recommendations, we're taking a time-based approach. When we talk about this, the customer I can think of that I've worked with in the past, we actually had a food and beverage manufacturer that I got to work with closely here in the Chicago area. And they kept stocking out of a particular ingredient. And they go, well, the vendor is telling us 21 days, that's the lead time. And then when they actually brought us on, because that was causing huge problems within their organization, we actually looked at their lead times. We actually calculated when the PO was placed to when it was received. And when we ran that average across their purchase orders, we actually found that it was closer to a 28-day lead time. So what that was telling us is, even though the vendor was telling 21 days, when we get down to how things are actually operating, that we were actually missing that. And that's why we're running into that problem. And especially if you're in the food and bev space, we know that waiting a week, we start worrying about it. Expiration dates, that could be waste, that could be write-offs that we're having to do because we don't have those items. So think about what you're doing in your organization. I know we do have a mix of stockouts versus excess inventory, but also I like to challenge you guys and think about what impacts are that having beyond just being out of it. Is that are we writing off inventory? Are we running out of things where we're missing sales, or somebody's going to another vendor for your product? Those are things that we want to make sure that we're considering. So want to take a look a little bit closer here at that recommended PO. So when we talk about somebody in purchasing, they're going to come in, they want to really find out what things need to be ordered and when. So in here, we're going to recommend not only what to order, but more importantly, and refers back to our time-based approach, is when should we place that purchase order? I think also importantly, when are we going to stock out of that product? So a lot of times when we come in, we do have some filters versus order now versus order soon. And this is where we can start to help be more surgical in our purchasing. So if we want to filter to that order now, and we say, yes, that's something that we need to order now, then we can filter to only that list. So really helps us be a little bit more strategic in how we're spending our time that day. Typically, when we look at order soon, that's going to happen in the next 30 days. Did want to refer back to that question about some of the inventory analysis as well. We do start to look at, what's that excess inventory cost as well. We can start to identify, what products that we have that are maybe in excess. And maybe these are areas that we want to take a look into. Maybe that's running a promotion, maybe discounting something. But this is also going to help guide and optimize inventory that way. Now, when we talk about inventory optimization as a whole, because we're getting that refresh of that data from Katana each and every day, we're starting to see changes in the sales velocity of those items. That's also going to help us in optimizing inventory here. So imagine if our sales are starting to slow down a little bit, the system's going to recommend that, and it's going to push that recommended purchase date out. It's going to say, hey, we have enough inventory for now. Let's go ahead. Let's push that purchase date out. On the flip side, if things are starting to go a little bit faster, the system's going, whoa, we're doing great. Hey, let's make sure that we're purchasing a little bit sooner. So again, this is kind of the advantage to having a system that can run these systems in the background for you. So you as an operator, you're coming in, you're allowing that system to kind of guide you here, and obviously make your tweaks to it as you see fit, based on the internal discussions and knowledge of the organization. Similarly, we do the same thing on the work order side of things, just really helping to guide us in recommending when we should place those purchase or place those work orders to make sure that we're still uh, getting that information, getting those products in the hands of our customers. Awesome. Well, Richard, I think for now, that's definitely what we wanted to cover today. Did want to chat a little bit about that, the integration a little bit more. Richard, I'll hand it back over to you as we talk about a little bit about the integration here.
Yeah, perfect.
So, if you are a Katana customer, you're actually going to be able to find the ConverSight integration out there on the Katana marketplace. We're going to have two different packages available for you. Our basic package, which is going to include Insights, Explorer, Athena, and we actually have 13 pre-built storyboards for you guys that are going to come directly out of the box. We do have the advanced package, which is also going to include everything in the basic package. But then we're also including the forecasting and inventory optimization use cases in that as well. So you're going to get those recommendations in there. Now, it's actually pretty, and you'll see that we just popped up another poll. So if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about ConverSight's Katana integration, make sure you let us know in that poll, and the team will be sure to reach out here for you. For that integration, after you've gone to the Katana marketplace, it'll actually take you to ConverSight's marketplace, and you can actually request access from there. And then our team will be getting in touch with you to help get that all set up.
Yes. And just while people are submitting their answers, I see Will just asked a question in the chat, which we will cover after this slide or two. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A and we will cover that. But I am going to talk about the integration itself. So yeah, as I mentioned, Katana is an inventory and manufacturing platform. That's what we've always done. But we're starting to see customers wanting more robust reporting and support on forecasting, which is why we built out an integration with an expert like ConverSight. Um, so there's a couple of the main reasons of when you have ConverSight's reporting and Athena, the AI tool, which Ben showed us, combined with Katana, you're going to get real-time inventory and production workflows, which understand what's happening now with your business and then what's going to happen next, and even in the midterm or longer term. So you can anticipate a demand shift, stock out risks, and supplier delays. So instead of just reacting, you can plan ahead. Um, Next is, yeah, the whole point of smarter inventory planning is so you can protect your cash flow. So that can be reducing overstock and preventing stockouts. So you're not having to discount things that don't sell. And then back to Ben's example, you're not missing out on potential revenue because you're missing uh, one maybe small component of the entire build. You've then got everything at hand. And then with that, you tie up a lot less into working capital, which we all know is integral. You can make faster decisions without relying on your IT team. or your analyst, or if you don't have an analyst, which a lot of us don't, because a lot of people are small sized businesses where you might even be working with just yourself or you and one or two other people. You essentially can have an analyst on your staff with tools like Katana and ConverSight. So you get those recommendations and you get that enhanced reporting without trying to run a bunch of reports yourself, and you're not going across like four different systems and then trying to assess it all in GPT or Excel or just kind of going with your gut. You're actually getting like critical data that is correct. Um, and then with that, uh, as I mentioned, ChatGPT, even someone who works in tech, myself, like I find all of the AI tools a bit overwhelming because it seems like every day, especially in 2025, it's all that people were talking about, and every single company was rolling out an option, and there's all these solutions coming out, and it's hard to sort of like work that into your workflow. I know I personally am now using like a couple different solutions, but it took some time to figure out, this one works well for me. This is how I use this to do this thing I need at work. But when you have just a number of specifically built tools like Athena and Kai, which is Katana's AI bot, it's a much more approachable way to start using the benefits of AI in your business to sort of get that efficiency and leveling up that you want to grow.
Richard, I actually want to piggyback off you there for a
Yeah.
second. So when we talk about other AI tools that you've probably seen in the market,
Mhm.
um, training these tools in the background always is a piece that we want to make sure that we're remembering. And so, and this is one piece I like to highlight about Athena is Athena was built as a purpose-driven, you know, AI solution that was meant for data and analytics for these companies. So what that means is every time that we're asking Athena that question, it's looking at it through that supply chain lens. Um, so I think most importantly is that we're not only using that AI tool, but it's one that's purpose built for the purpose that we're trying to do. So if we're trying to do data analytics or supply chain type functions, having that background training for a tool like this makes it very direct and making sure that we're understanding the question so that we're not making decisions off of data that may not be specifically to a supply chain organization.
Totally. Okay, I think we're ready for Ben to walk through the offer he referenced earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're super excited about our Katana partnership here, and so we actually want to make sure that just to celebrate this partnership, that we do put out an offer to kick off this partnership. And so we're actually going to offer 3 months free. We're actually offering that to the first 10 Katana customers that sign up with us. Um, with that, those do have to be signed before the end of February. So we are only offering that for a limited time and limited people. So make sure that you scan that QR code. Make sure you get set up with us. Happy to get those discussions started and answer any questions that you have. But if you guys are on the call today and have some questions, make sure to throw those in the Q&A. And I think from here, Richard, if you're open to it, let's start getting to some of those questions.
Yeah, definitely. Question to start off with. Um, from Will for the or I guess sorry, Vlad answered this, but maybe do you want to cover this for everyone? Is for the work order portion, is there a way to plan for production capacity? For example, what if forecast is greater than production capacity? Can the software show that so the organization can plan for the production storage?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that we do pretty regularly. So as we're looking at like capacity, I've actually seen it capacity covered in a few different ways. One, I've seen it taken as, we can create, X number of widgets per day. We've also seen it taking kind of a time-based approach, so we know that the team is working X amount of hours today. What can they typically do in that time frame? And so we can help to recommend what are going to be the best items for us to create during that time. So that's one piece that we could look into. We could start getting into analysis of, what was planned versus actuals in there. So we can start to dial in that capacity a bit more. So definitely something that we can take a look at. Happy to dig into that a little bit more. If it makes sense, we can get on a call. We can also lean on Vlad a little bit as we start to work through the nuances of your organization. But definitely something that we've done fairly often, and happy to help with.
Cool. Next couple questions. Um, One for Katana is, can I still use Katana if I'm not a manufacturer? Yes, absolutely. Some people don't manage any sort of production. They're just purchasing and reselling inventory, for sure. Question for Ben. Um, my business is pretty seasonal. Will the AI be able to recognize this when providing the forecast?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why we want to make sure we try and shoot for 2 years worth of data. Even if you don't have all of that data in Katana, maybe you were just using QuickBooks beforehand and you didn't want to pull all that data in. Those are projects that we'll take on. We'll bring in that other data source. And I think this goes back to my earlier statement is, we can pull in from these different data sources and make sure that we're getting all the data to kind of, as I like to say, singing from the same song sheet,
Mhm.
so that we can then, have enough data points to start to identify those seasonal businesses. We run into a lot of organizations that, maybe their big quarters are Q4 and Q1, and so we'll plan for that. And then when we talk about, the inventory optimization side, maybe we'll back down what inventory we're carrying during, Q2 and Q3 when it's slower. So again, that's all to help drive that inventory costs. Ultimately, we want to make sure right inventory, right place, right time.
Love it. Next question is, what are the benefits of using base models instead of traditional statistical algorithms? How does the accuracy of AI models compare to statistical models? And what key factors influence the accuracy of AI systems?
Yeah, great question. I think the biggest difference is, we are using some of those traditional algorithms in the background, but we're also running all of these different ones. We're allowing that system to start to pick out which one is going to be the best fit. And a lot of times when we're using some of the traditional ones, we're only going through that exercise, once a month, once a quarter. There's a lot of things that could happen between the 1st of January and the last day of January, especially when we talk about marketing and how they're influencing our sales. Even if you're a product company, you have one product that goes viral on a social platform, that could really change things. And when we think about, either getting that product in maybe from overseas, or even having to produce it, there's still going to be that lead time of getting the product ready. So this is an example of we're running this, we're having that system evaluate it every day when we get that refresh and start to identify, potential problem areas that we have, which is typically missed in kind of those traditional forecasting exercises.
Love it. I'm going to answer the next question, but in the meantime, Sean has asked for a link to, so I know we shared the QR code, but can you just paste the URL for the offer in the chat box, Ben? Can you do that?
I we can probably get that, Sean.
Okay.
If we don't hear, we'll definitely follow up with that. Um, we may have Richard, we may have somebody on our team as well
Yeah,
that might be able to put that in there for us.
cool. But question from Will is, can Katana and ConverSight integrate with QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise? So with Katana, we integrate with QuickBooks Online, no problem. Um, Desktop, you can connect it, but we don't have a native integration, so it would be sort of like a custom setup that one of our integration partners can help you with. So it's not a yes, it's like a bit of a workaround, but it's possible. What
Richard, I
about,
can also answer that
yeah,
from the ConverSite side.
yeah,
We can do an integration with QuickBooks Desktop. It's a what we actually use is like an agent. So it's a little bit different connection style than QuickBooks Online. Something that we can do, typically we want to make sure that we do that, overnight and things to be aware of. We just want to make sure that you don't have other tasks running during that window. Something that we do often, and happy to walk through that process with you as well if you'd like some more details.
perfect. Terry has asked, what are the limitations regarding forecasting products with expiry dates? Are lot codes and expiry dates included when looking at future product availabilities? I see that Vlad did type a response, but I would love your thoughts on this in case people are not all in the chat.
Yeah, definitely something that we do quite often. I would say a good portion of clients that we work with are in that food and bev space. So expiration dates, lot codes, things like that are super important. Um, we actually work with like a spice manufacturer and they're dealing with those as well. So when we talk about optimizing inventory, we're making sure that we're having the right inventory, right place, right time. The whole goal of that exercise is to ensure that we're not running into problems with those expiry dates.
Yeah,
But also from a logic perspective, if all of a sudden, that inventory is then going to be unavailable for us, that's something that we can make sure that we are considering, as we're planning production, as we're planning, the supply from that side as well.
totally. Mm, mm, Next question is the AI does the AI model use external data like market fluctuations, or is it only relying on internal data? It's a good one.
Yeah, great question. So typically, we're only using internal data.
Okay.
Now, the other answer is we can bring in other data sources. For example, we do have customers, they want to bring in like block and barrel pricing, or block and barrel markets, to use that as part of that. Definitely something that we can do. Kind of the base two packages that we have in the marketplace. Those aren't going to include that, but that would be more of like an add-on project that we would do. So if that's something that you're interested in bringing in, definitely something that we can discuss and see how we want to leverage that type of data and where that data is coming from.
Cool. Two questions that I think I know how to answer is there's a question about how much stock is the factory limit for Katana? Basically unlimited. I think we have someone that's running up to 1 million SKUs. And how to control non-moving inventory. Um, I could be thinking of this incorrectly, but this might be, are you looking at asset management? Do you mean non-moving inventory like it's something you have, but you're not selling it, but you're using it and counting it as part of your inventory? Most people don't really use Katana for just sort of asset management. It is possible. It's not super common, but it is something you could do.
Yeah, and Richard, I think on the flip side, if they're thinking like slow moving, non moving
Okay,
inventory,
there we go. There we
um,
go.
which
That might be more
which
accurate.
could Yeah, which could be the direction they're heading. I think there's first of all the identification part. You know what
Mhm.
is slow moving, non moving. So we do have like sales trend. We can do top bottom analysis on how things are selling. So that's going to be one piece of it. Second piece of it is identifying what's excess. We can do that as well. And then also what is that dollar amount? So when we think about total inventory costs, how much of that is allocated to slow moving, non moving? Maybe this is where, me as a business operator, I go, hey, I've got, $50,000 worth of slow moving, non moving. Maybe this is time to run a promotion on these. So, especially on the ConverSight side, we're going to help identify those for you and just kind of bring that to the forefront for you, so that you can then start to develop that strategy on how do we unload this? Like, why is this not moving? Do we need to reposition ourselves in the marketplace? Are we priced out? So there's some other factors there and different levers that you could pull as a business operator to try and help get that moving.
Cool. Okay. Yes, I think your interpretation is much more accurate than mine. Thank you. Mm, mm, mm. Just looking. Da, da, da. Okay, I think we have time for one more question, which is I have team members who would benefit from using the platform, but I want to restrict the data that they have access to. Am I able to set up restrictions within ConverSight?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we here at ConverSight know that data security and data access is very important to organizations.
Mhm.
So you have full control over what your employees are seeing, what they have access to. You can set up roles within our data governance, row level security. All of those things can be done. So the in any way you really want to set up those security restrictions, we're going to have the ability to do so.
Nice. Yeah, Katana is the same. You're able to restrict like who can modify inputs and what your team members can see. So if you don't want people that are on your shop floor or in your warehouse, you don't want to see them to have access to all the info. That's really cool. But you can also give people as much access as they're going to need. But yeah, I think that's a really good spot to end it. So. If you've got questions and you want to continue the conversation further, scan either of those QR codes to talk to either ConverSite or Katana or both. You'll get a recording with a link to the offer. I think it'll go out later today, or no, I think it'll go out tomorrow. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Ben, really appreciate you for working on this with me. It's been lovely. So I hope everyone
Yeah,
has a great rest of their day.
yeah. Thanks for having us, Richard, and yeah, excited to chat anything ConverSight Katana related. So, um, fill my inbox. I'm happy to tell you everything there is to know.
Perfect. You've got lots to say. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone.